Thanks, Claude. Yep, we start our work on Mississippi State today. Took a day of the bye week to work towards these guys. Very different, really different two ways. Different defensively. Their defense coordinator does an incredible job. Different kind of scheme than we've faced before. And then offensively, obviously, they're very different. And people would probably think they're similar to Tennessee, but they're really not similar to Tennessee. So it's be kind of the third week of facing a different kind of offense in terms of what they do offensively, and very few of our calls and schemes carry over from one week to the next when you play this offense. So it's a new challenge for our guys, and I know our guys will be excited about getting ready for it. It's an extremely tough place to play, a place I've been many times. Their environment is electric. It'll be at night. And their guys play really hard, and they're really physical. We saw that, a couple years ago here at home against them. I guess that was in the COVID year. So.
Kirby, you mentioned that game a few years ago here in Athens. What is different about this Mississippi State offense from that game to this one that you've seen on film?
Well, a lot more experienced quarterback. That was the kickoff for him. And he played really well in that game, and kind of got a lot of confidence, playing against us. And he's I don't know how many games he's played since then, but a lot. He's broken a lot of records. He's very intelligent. He doesn't make mistakes. He uses Coach Leach's offense to his strength, and they understand, very similar to last week, triple options. They know who they are. They have answers for what they do. They're usually one step ahead of their answers than you are, because you don't play against it but once a year, and they do it all the time. So they have exposure to everything every defense has tried on them, and their quarterback's very experienced, and that's the biggest difference. Defensively, they may not be the same players they were, because a lot of those guys are gone. They are extremely physical, disruptive. Defense coordinator does a great job. Zach Arndt does a great job with it.
Kirby, you talked before, you only get better at things by doing them. You guys have done this number one thing a lot. I know you don't obviously pay attention to it, but you also know the players see it. Is that kind of another muscle, like that composure muscle you talked about earlier this week, that your team has learned to be able to flex over the years of being in this position? Block that out.
We just don't talk about it much. I mean, they understand it's wasted energy when you talk about it, and you guys want to write about it and do all that. You just focus on Mississippi State and, like, what do we have to do to play well against them? What do we have to do to play well on the road in the SEC? Those are the focus. That's nothing but a number and a distraction, and it's irrelevant. It just doesn't really matter. So I don't, they see it, but they don't get it discussed around here, because I think the more you talk about it, the more attention you bring to it.
Kirby, talking about Mississippi State's offense, they're averaging right under 49 attempts per game. What is the mindset got to be, especially of the players in your secondary, knowing that they're going to come out and throw it as much as they do?
Well, you'd be mistaken if you think they're just throwing it, because they've got some really good backs, and they're really physical up front, and they space you out. There's more gaps in the run game. They've really gashed some people running the ball this year, and I think that's the biggest difference, is they are committed to running the ball and being physical up front. And people have the wrong demeanor when they go to play this team, that, oh, man, I'm going to go out here and pass rush and get all these sacks. They're not going to let you do that. Number one, they pass pro really well. Number two, they run scheme really well, and they got good backs. So it's not going to be a deal where it's just all about the secondary. The secondary's got to play well every week.
Coach, if you had an update on Robert Beal.
Yeah, Robert had a stinger, and feels good. Hopefully we'll see. I mean, I hadn't seen him today, but feel good about him being able to play.
I guess other injuries, AD, Truss, and Mims, any updates on those guys?
Yeah, the update is we're hopeful to get each one of them back this week.
Kirby, you got a lot of second-year guys on defense who are obviously starters, contributing a lot. How much happens from your true freshman year to your second year that is in development, and how much of it is still relying on pure talent and instinct?
Well, we recruit based on talent and instinct and, character and things like that, but you develop everybody that comes here. So when they come, they become part of the development. We teach our scheme. We teach our scheme in the spring. We teach it in the summer. We teach it again in fall camp, and then we teach it throughout the season. And the more you teach and the more you expand someone's brain, the more information they can handle. And we try to push the limits of the expansion so that they can hold more and they can do more. And doesn't matter where they come from, when they get here, what age they are, what their rating was. We just take the guys that choose to be a part of it, and we try to develop them. And whether you're first year, second year, or third year, fourth year, you can get better. I mean, NFL scouts come, they want to see a player get developed. They want to see him improve. They don't say, well, your juniors are all good. They're ready to go. No, there's a lot of things they can get better at. There's just more things that our first year and second year guys can get better at. And we try to practice in a way where the young players get a lot of reps so they're ready when their turn comes.
How do you go about creating a both physically and mentally tough team, especially in a day and age where players do have more freedom and can possibly enter the transfer portal if they don't like what they see here?
Yeah, we hit mentally tough and physically tough. We hit a lot, so they get that speech before they come, because I don't want to lie to them. So I tell them we're going to be in pads Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we're going to be physical, and we're going to practice physical. We're going to be physical in the spring. We're going to be comfortable being physical. So that's agreed upon when they come.
Coach, how much did Jalen Carter actually end up playing in the game? Total snaps wise.
I don't know.
And his impact on the game. Just what did it bring to the game? And lastly, was that I'm sure you've looked at it several times since then. I have too. It looked like that was a safety. I don't know what they saw there, and how bothered were you about that particular call?
Does it matter? I'm worried about Mississippi State, to be honest. Jalen question, it's I don't know how many snaps he played. I didn't check it. We count them. We do production. We have how many points he made. He certainly was productive in terms of tackles, calls, fumbles. He was the first time this year I won't even say he's at 100% health. I would say first time this year he was above 90, 95, because on the very first play of the game against Oregon, he took a tough ankle injury and has not really been 100% since. And he's committed to getting back, and he's worked really hard. So I don't know how many snaps he played. He didn't play perfect, and he needs to get in better shape to be able to play more snaps. But he has taken ownership in working on that. That was the big thing for him coming into the season, is how good a shape can you be in to play a larger volume of snaps? Well, we've had this great fortune of getting a lot of dudes ready around him because he hasn't been there. So it's like a luxury to have him back and have him playing well. He still has a few things he's got to work on in terms of playing the right way within the plan, but he played really well the other day, and we need him to continue that.
Yeah, Kirby, what are some things your defense can take moving forward from a Tennessee game in terms of those things we were talking about the other day, buying into the plan and limiting explosive plays, that kind of stuff?
Well, they can maybe get some confidence from it, but it doesn't carry over. Like there's nobody who will play these next 3 games of the regular season that's really like that. It's just when you watch the tape, it's different. It's just very different.
Yeah, Kirby, 2 things. One, Kendall Milton reemerged. How important was it to add that depth to the backfield? And then 2, before moving on completely from that last game, we hear so much about hurry-up offense. Can you comment more about your hurry-up defense? Because I don't believe there was ever an issue with your substitution or them catching you in the wrong personnel. I might have missed that.
Yeah, Kendall Milton has worked his tail off. He practiced much better last week, although I wouldn't say he was 100% last week. He practiced much better. He got better as the week went along. He felt more comfortable going into the game. We felt like he was going to be able to help us if we needed him to. And we Dejon was a little dinged up. Kenny was a little dinged up during the game, so it gave us an opportunity to play Kendall, and he stepped up and did a nice job. So I'm hoping that Kendall can get back to 100% this week, because we need him and the others for the stretch run. So And as far as the hurry up stuff, I mean, everybody has a way of practicing for it, and there's no perfect way. So you do the best you can with it. It's hard to simulate.
Kirby, how did you evaluate Devin Willock stepping in as a starter, and then with Warren Erickson, keeping him engaged? When he hasn't been playing as much, obviously he was ready when you all needed him.
Yeah, Warren does a great job preparing each week. He's a guy that can play all the way across the board, all 5 positions. He's very versatile. He's very experienced. He's a leader in that group. He commands respect of the men in the room because of the playing time he's done and really the way he works. He has an extremely valuable role in our team starting on punt because he makes a lot of calls for our punt team, and he does a tremendous job with that in his versatility. But Devin, I thought, did a good job. I challenged Devin to play with more confidence. He's got to play confident and play like a starter, and he really gets good movement on people, and his size allows him to do things. He can recognize some things probably a little quicker, but you could tell he came out with a demeanor of playing physical, and I thought that's probably what he does best is play physical.
Coach, you talk about the noise at Mississippi State. Of course, the shoe would kind of be on the other foot this week, because you got to be loud when your offense is on the field. But having gone through the team experience, last Saturday, how much can that help as a whole?
Well, it's a huge competitive advantage. It's why there's a home and away, and it's why I always say in the SEC it's greater than NFL other than the playoffs because the environment is not the same in any conference division level of football as it is in the SEC when you play on the road. And I've been in this conference for 20-something years, and I've seen it. I know what it does in terms of the effect it has on pass rush, the effect it has on momentum, and it's something you really can't measure. So you have to prepare the right way, and it's a firm reason why I believe in practicing with crowd noise throughout the year because both sides of the ball need it.
Yeah, I was also going to ask you, Kirby, about the environment there from your time at Alabama being there. What makes it unique?
Loud. I mean, they're passionate. I can't say that it's unique because every SEC school I feel is that way. I mean, you guys were there at Missouri. It was loud. It was passionate there. I do think there's a feeling in Starkville because it's a rural community that everybody comes from afar and everybody's sold out and in love with their football team. That's what they have to hang their hat on, their pride in, which is usually indicative of all SEC schools, but especially there. I know, being in Tuscaloosa for those years, it was right down the road. There's a lot of pride, and they're really physical.
Kirby, whether it was Robert Beal or just the defense overall, how do you feel like the guys stepped up with Nolan Smith being out, and how do you feel about that moving forward?
Yeah, a lot of guys seized an opportunity. Probably inspired and motivated some guys, and others, were inspired with an opportunity to play against a good team, play at home. But I feel good about our guys stepping up. We certainly need Robert to be healthy because otherwise we're going to be really thin at that position. But the other guys are growing and getting better.
Coach, I think earlier in the season you said that Dejon Edwards was the one back that was consistently breaking tackles, but it seems like the past couple weeks, Kenny McIntosh has been able to win one-on-one matchups in open space. How have you seen him develop as a runner? Do you think his confidence has gotten a boost as a result of that? Yeah,
I think Kenny always does a great job as a runner. He had some elusive runs last week. He breaks tackles downfield. He had a lot of those against Florida. I mean, he's run the ball really well this year, and sometimes it's not there, and he makes the most of it, and sometimes it is there, and he makes more of it. And I'm pleased with all those guys' performances.
Kirby, you mentioned Mississippi State's defense. Just what sort of stands out about how they attack on defense and what they do well?
Well, they're aggressive, relentless. They're experienced. They got like 7 or 8 starters back, disruptive with the way they move and do things. Look, it's known across the league among the coaches that defense is it's probably more unique. There's a lot of similar defenses, I guess, across our league. Maybe the coaching trees have come from a lot of the same places. This is different, and it stands out. And you better have a good plan because they can take what you do away from you quick.
You mentioned this a little bit Saturday night. I thought you said something like maybe took the air out of it a little bit more than you would have liked to in retrospect, the way that game ended this past Saturday. Was that more, well, let me ask you straight out. Did you feel like you guys finished the game the way you wanted it?
Did we take the air out of it? Yes. But
Yeah.
did I question doing that? No. Not based on the circumstances. I certainly didn't intentionally question that because I think that was the play in that moment because the conditions changed. And you got to be smart when you're coaching. It could be wind, it could be rain, it could be anything. It could be an injury. But you got to be smart when you see two exchanges with two guys, their backs hardly ever do they fumble. And our backs very rarely do too. And when you see two things happen back to back, talking about Branson's and theirs, changes the way you think about it a little bit.
Kirby, I guess I'd just ask you about Mike Leach. I mean, he's considered one of the offensive mind legends, etc. What is it about Coach Leach? And you've gotten to kind of know him probably better than most behind the scenes. He seems a bit eccentric. Is he like that behind the curtain as well? And just kind of your thoughts on his offenses and who and what he is.
Yeah, I enjoy being around him. I don't know him that well, probably as well as I know some others because he was out west for a large time. I've been coaching here, but he was at Valdosta State when I was in high school, and his staff recruited me to go to Valdosta State from right down the road. So I knew he was there at that time and known a lot about him. And followed his career because of Coach Hatcher and because of the air raid kind of family. But got a lot of respect for what he does. He's evolved too. He's not stayed exactly the same. You know, their backs and their commitment to the so-called just air raid, and he's brought that physicality really to the SEC in terms of what he does.
Kirby, you mentioned about the weather in the second half regarding the fumble, I guess. But is there anything else when you guys are watching film, when you look at the number of fumbles you have, that you want to emphasize with the players in terms of coaching points?
Ball security. It's really important.
You guys last week, it was such an emotional game, number one team, and everything that went into it. How do you battle against the letdown and keep the same standard, that you guys are used to?
Well, you do that by, no matter who you play, you have a process and we're not going to go do anything different today than we did when we played Vandy, Auburn, Kent State, Missouri, or anybody else. Because when you treat it different, you make it different. So that's not what this program was built on. We do it week to week, and we worry about the opponent that week. And it's not what you want me to say and not what you want me to want to write, but it's true.
Coach, you spoke a little bit about Javon Bullard after the game the other day, but after looking back at the game of film, anything else about his performance kind of jump out at you?
Played really hard, tackled well. He's physical, and he's passionate about playing the game. I mean, he didn't play perfect now. He grabbed and held a couple times and got called, but he played hard. He understood the game plan, and he executed it.
Take two more questions.
Yeah, when Robert went out, we see an uptick in snaps for both Chaz, and Chaz played a lot in the game regardless, and Marvin Jones as well. How would you assess how those guys did, especially being young players being thrust into bigger roles on Saturday?
The best news is they got to practice a lot going into it because of the loss of reps of Nolan kind of got dispersed them out among those guys. So they were better prepared because they were one notch up. So they were a little more prepared for it. Still didn't play perfect. Jalen got to get in and get some snaps. Jalen Walker plays some. He's kind of an in-between hybrid guy that can play third down rush, but he can also play inside backer. So Jalen got a little piece. Marvin got to play, and Chaz did a nice job. The key is keeping those guys healthy.
Coach, I believe you said maybe after the game, whenever, that maybe some of your guys were kind of battling through the flu last week. How is everybody kind of from that standpoint right now?
Yeah, we've got the Warren Brents. A couple guys have been battling the flu, went into the game that way, and a couple of them tried to push through. I had a couple walk-on guys that were out, but we had two or three going into the game that we were worried about. They seemed to come out all right. I haven't seen them today, but I'm sure they'll be fine.